So while we're setting up, I know you're going to do the meeting. I'm just going to say,
you're really good.
while I'm getting everything set up, we could just go around the room and just introduce who everybody is, because I know some people, but not everybody. And you may know some of us, but not all of us. So I'll start. I'm Tammy Goodwater. I'm a preschool specialist. I actually used to HQSR, but Jessica and I work kind of in collaboration with each other to oversee both HQSR and HQSRE.
I'm Tara Boswell from Wasatch School District.
And you're new to HQSRE this year. Very excited to have you.
I'm Debbie Ballard, I'm in Jordan, and this is my secretary Becca, who is here. And this is Mary James, and she's from Jordan as well.
Welcome.
They already know you, I guess, kind of. There's a couple new people. I'm Melissa Bowe, preschool special ed specialist. She's awesome. I'm Jessica Smith, I'm the preschool specialist here at USBE overseeing the HQSRE grant.
I am Kristen Campbell, and I am the research analyst for teaching and learning and licensing.
I am Melissa Stroutens. I'm the TANF auditor and program helper.
I'm Amy Garlick, and I'm a coordinator in Davis. And I brought a lot of people with me.
I know.
So that they all can listen. Pam, Christine, Cindy, and Shelley.
I'm Lisa Crane. I'm the Director of Special Education at Sevier School District.
I'm Liz Davis. I'm the data specialist from Salt Lake District.
I am Audrey Powell, Early Childhood Coordinator for Salt Lake District.
From Salt Lake City Schools.
You all can introduce yourself.
Amy
I was trying to go. Amy's quite up for.
Amy's still on.
Okay, Cindy, I'm Shelley,
Christine, and
good to meet you. Sorry about that.
I'm first, huh?
Well, hold on.
Let me get this up for you.
Okay.
I don't have, and also, I'm Nicole, so I have the slides up, but I don't have the WebEx up. So if anybody's asking questions, then you need to email those to me.
No, I thought she wanted to take it over. Do you want me? So if you click on that WebEx.
Yeah, but I'm also showing this. So I can't, I can monitor.
No, you can still do it. If you click on WebEx, and then you can display your screen.
Okay. Ooh, my momentum, worth of water.
Okay, and then someone can watch the. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. This shouldn't be too bad. I just want to say welcome to this meeting. I know that HQSRE is kind of a sore topic for all of us. So we're going to try and address some of those things and make it so much better for this coming year. So first of all, I just wanted to emphasize, which a lot of you already know, the grant is ending in June 2019. New legislation is starting to be written by Jennifer and a team of people. But to do that, they're going to need some data that this worked. And right now, we have a mess on our hands. So if you are year one participant of the grant, you're already aware of that. We sent out emails with a roster of the kids that we had that were registered and on HQSRE. And we know that it's just not sufficient, that it's not encompassing all of the kids. And so they're correcting that roster and sending it back to us. We're going to do the same thing for year two. I'm going to be sending out an email letting you with the letter explaining all that I just said. That'll come out tomorrow. And then on Monday, you'll get the link from Kristen with your roster. And then you'll have a month to correct it. So what's been happening, which I want you to all go back to your LEAs and stress with your the principals at the schools and things, is a secretary, when they register students for kindergarten, is not seeing if the child already received an SSID. So they're giving them a new one, which then disconnects them from being in an HQSRE program, and we have no data because we can't track that child through all of up to third grade to get that longitudinal data to say, hey, preschool worked. So a lot of these students, when you get your rosters, they might have a duplicate SSID, and those need to be merged so that we can now track the student. And then I would love if you guys could go, we're trying to figure out a way to do it from our end, but I think it's maybe easier to go on your end to go to like the principals and ask them to inform their secretaries that for every student that they register, they need to check if there's a preschool SSID already. Because kids that are coming from private providers, if those private providers were in an HQSRE or HQSR program, they have an SSID. And so I think they're just used to, preschool not being part of their life, and they just, new to kindergarten, that's the first time this child's ever had an SSID. So they need to get it fixed. So Kristen is going to talk so much more about this.
Okay, hello. I'm sure I've emailed probably most of you and sent you links to our secure server. So I was just going to talk a little bit about SSIDs versus LEA IDs. We've had a bunch of confusion with preschoolers coming back to us with LEA IDs, which really doesn't do me any good, on how to generate an SSID, enrollment, course codes and UTREX, and working with your IT people. Let me go on to the next slide. Okay. Does everybody here know what an SSID is? Yeah. Oops, did I skip it? No. Yeah. SSIDs, so ideally an SSID will stay with a student through all of their education. We need to have that to do any longitudinal data. Currently, about 5% of students get a new SSID every year. So what that means is if you have 100 kids in your preschool program, by the time they hit 12th grade, we have 50 of them. They don't take losses every year. We tend to see big losses between preschool and kindergarten, between elementary and middle school, and between middle and high school. So those are when we have more than 5% dropout. The other thing is minorities and low-income students are much more likely to have multiple SSIDs. I'll show you why in a minute, but it's really, we just gotta let everyone know to keep looking for the SSIDs. The next slide is generating an SSID. All right.
I'm trying to do the WebEx and hold
Okay.
this together, so.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, I don't know how you guys do preschool enrollment, but we have found that some LEAs do not require the same documentation for a preschooler that they require for an elementary school. By state law, all parents are to provide legal documentation within 30 days of the student's name. This is typically a birth certificate. Legal documentation is not what the parents tell you, because as a parent, I know I've been busy and lied. Just not really lied.
White lie.
We used to, before we started checking, get about 500 kids a year with their birth date the first day of school. So it's not that anyone's out to do it, to make mistakes, but they do. Okay, before I turn to the next, flip to the next slide, or Tammy does, there's some names up there, and I want you guys to tell me what you think is the first name, middle name, and last name. And these are all.
Why is it doing that?
For those who have really good glasses.
Yeah.
What if I?
There we go.
Oh, yeah, the next one. Okay. So anybody want to take the guess at the first name, last name of that first child?
I can do the second one. That's why you need the birth certificate.
Right. So what's the second one? Is that Mary the first name, or is it Mary Elizabeth?
Oh, well,
Depends.
depends on what's on the birth certificate.
Well, so the problem when you tell birth certificates is they don't they are now starting to say first name, middle name, and last name, but in the past it just said Mary Elizabeth Smith. Growing up Catholic, I know millions of girls have the first name Mary. So this is something that needs to be asked, is it, the parents. The second name, third one, John Paul. Is John Paul the first name or the middle? Is it Paul David's the middle name? These are things you need to ask, and you need to get on your secretaries and be like, if we get these, we can't match the kids. The other thing is, occasionally there's the wrong gender on the birth certificate. Go ahead and put the right one and get on the parents to get the right birth certificate they're fixed, because it'll come back and haunt the child later. Call us if you're unsure. I have started with a lot of the privates asking them, they'll send me through the secure server copies of the birth certificate so I can actually put the names in correctly, because we know that there's such a issue with it. All right, continued. The SSID person in your LEA takes the information entered and then uploads it to the SSID system. There's no match, it spits it out. Here's a new SSID. If there's a perfect match, it puts it out. If there's a close match, it says, well, maybe it's Mary Elizabeth is Mary Elizabeth middle name. We need preschoolers, we just need to make sure everyone's doing the same thing so that we don't lose them. Okay. Enrollment. All right, all preschoolers can be enrolled in classes. There is a new core code. I don't know how many of you are familiar with how UTREX works. So when your SIS student is enrolled in the SIS system, it goes up to your IT person who submits it to UTREX. We would like you to start using this core code for the HQSRE classrooms. This will be, your IT will be aware of this, but there's two preschoolers, actually there's three preschools now. There's preschool for special ed, there's regular preschool, and now this. For the kids in the HQSRE preschool, this core code, your rosters will be a lot easier next year, because then you can just say, oh yes, all these kids are HQSRE or not.
So write that number down if you haven't already.
Okay. So I have a question for you. What if all of our classrooms have a mixture of students? So there are some that are.
As long as they're in the classroom.
Yeah, so for
we're
data
okay.
purposes, like if you think like special ed, they all receive the same treatment. And so that's what we're monitoring. Did high quality preschool benefit those children? So even if they're not receiving.
They can't with special ed.
That was
Special ed kids have to be.
Yeah, that's
in
true.
the
Special ed
special
can't.
code.
But if you have like tuition students that are paying, but they're not receiving TANF funds,
Yes.
they can be part of that treatment group.
But special ed cannot.
Yeah, just because special ed's not usually with anything.
So Kristen, but in the past.
You're
we've
saying
been
if they, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If, a question was asked, if they have an IEP, they need to be under the IEP code, right?
Right, the special ed one.
Okay.
Not we're doing this by individuals, not by the entire class.
This is, yeah.
But what if they're
Well, no, this is,
regular?
so, and I know this is kind of hard. You're gonna have basically, you're gonna have two rosters. One for your special ed kids and one with the HQSRE kids.
So for one classroom.
With 2 codes?
But some of the special ed kids are HQSRE.
Yes.
Yes, so that's what so we have articulation kids who are under an IEP who also are high quality preschool kids. So.
Let me find out if we could you could submit that kid twice.
My question is usually like when they're looking at data though, like they kind of use this, they take the special kids out because that can skew the data.
Yes.
Because those kids are already struggling. So for this purpose, like the whole reason that code is there is to monitor high quality preschool in regular ed students.
But-
I believe
But our TIC kids are typical kids with language delay.
Yeah.
So they are typical kids, so you cannot discriminate against those kids. They're learning, they're typical kids with speech delays, so they should be able to be in that data.
So we'll check and make sure that there's a way to do that.
Yeah, let me check, because you want the funding for your special ed kids. And that's right, that there's that,
So,
but I will find out.
yeah, they need to be in both. I mean, if you want data, those
Right.
kids should be part of your data set.
I'll ask Jennifer.
But they're
and I'll
not, you roll them in 2 different courses, like you do on a secondary level?
That's what I'm thinking. I've just got to find out if that's possible.
Yeah.
And I think it is because we don't check very much on preschoolers. I mean, it's pretty much like they're a living human being, and except for special ed ones, we don't check anything. You know, we don't check membership, we don't check
So,
if we got.
Dan Parkinson, I lost it, hold on.
So our programs are all inclusion.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the other thing is I'll just have to go see, I've got to go talk to find out. We might have to create a second core code.
Of both.
So they are all inclusive, however, the kids who sign up that qualify for the HQ funds you would use that number for. So you have, correct?
We need to know every kid who's in an HQS every class.
We have a lot.
Oh, well, then you would.
So this is what I'm thinking, let me know if I'm right. So right now, if the child receives TANF funding, or they're a regular child in an HQSRE classroom, they for sure get that code. We will check on special ed kids and see if that is supposed to receive that code, or if there's gonna be a different code, or if we leave them out.
And
I will get
Title I
back to you.
kids too.
Title I kids can come in under this code. There's no preschool.
Really, it's just that special ed issue. So I will talk to people and I will email you and let you know.
And I just want to add a comment from Leanne Parkinson in Washington. She said, in Power School, I've been able to give them 2 special program codes. If they are in HQSRE or if they're in SPED, we put both codes on those students in our special programs at Power School.
Okay, so then I just have to make sure we can take it into UTREX.
I was gonna say, that's a special program code, not a course code.
Oh, right.
So, because I know our district does not put kids in an IEP or special ed course code. They're all, unless it's a special ed class. Otherwise, they're just in the mainstream course codes.
Oh, yeah, let me find out, because we may be able to do it that way. That you're gonna put everyone, your delayed kids in the regular, that code I just showed you, but if they can still get special ed funding, which I know is the important thing.
I think that all follows the SCRAM record, so.
Right, it
Yeah.
should follow the SCRAM record, I just gotta make sure there's no tie, because special ed preschool is a little bit different. But very good question, because it's not a problem in like 3rd grade, so I'm thinking we'll be okay. So,
I will get back to you on it.
also, your teachers can come in under that code in Cactus. You don't need to go back, but. Why use the core code? Because when I send you the student rosters, then you don't have to sort out kids who weren't there. So for the bigger districts, that's more of an issue. For the smaller ones, it's pretty easy to identify your kids. Okay, next slide. Okay, does everyone know what UTREX is? Okay, so let's see, Utah transcript, I don't know what it stands for. Every day, the LEA is supposed to submit data to us on your enrollment. It's a set up computerized program, everything comes in. On our older kids, everything has to be correct. Like you can't send a 1st grader in without a race ethnicity. You can't send them in without a birth date. Preschooler kids, we don't check very much. We check to make sure the school is actually a real school. We check a few things. So even though if your LEA comes back to you and says, well, we don't have time, you can just remind them, we don't really check very much on UTREX when the students come in. On elementary students and up, there's about 500 validations per kid. So that's why you don't, it makes it really easy to get into UTREX.
Who's most likely in your LEA to upload to UTREX?
That's your IT person.
Okay, good to know.
So we're supposed to submit what daily to UTREX?
We're not the IT person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just kind of like FYI.
Yeah.
If
So
you're
this is something that already, you've been getting data from us?
Yeah, all the districts in the program are sending us preschool data. It's just been spotty. And it makes it really hard for anybody to do analysis on it.
Districts are usually pulling it out of whatever student information system
Right.
they're using. So,
Yeah.
it just automatically happens every night.
Okay, thank you. I know I use it though when I have a kid transferring to us to check to see if they have an SSID in another district.
There you go.
I have a big question. on
Yeah.
The files that you're gonna send us next week,
Mhm.
so since the year's not over, what UTREX date are you just gonna
I'm actually
pull?
gonna pull it from the December 1 data because
Okay.
we're not, if a student came in after December 1, which is really like about December 20th, the data's finalized, that student would have only been in the program half the year anyway, so you don't need to add students after that who aren't on the list unless they were in the program most of the year.
Of wanting the full treatment.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that was not made explicit for the validation kit we're doing right now, so I added everyone that's been there, for whether it's a day or.
Okay, so you'll get the roster that I'll pull and we do have on the roster approximate attendance times. If the student was there greater than 80%.
So that'll be
Between
different than the
50.
roster you sent us.
Yes, this will be different. And on that, we don't want you to spend hours on it. Just, you know your students or your teachers know who was there most of the time, who was there some of the time, and who was there less than 50% of the time. Because we're not seeing very much results from the data, but we know from talking to some of the programs that the attendance is really spotty. Some kids are there every day and some kids are showing up, 2 days a month. So we're hoping to have better tie.
If you get the rosters and have questions, like feel free to call either me or Kristen.
So, And after, see, we want to take this data and connect it to the Keep and Dibbles and any other exciting things that come down the line. Okay, so my last thing is, you love your IT department. Take them chocolate or whatever, because they're the ones who are going to make sure this happens to you. And then, as Jessica said, tell as many people, just people in the kindergartens especially, that if you have preschool programs, that they've already had SSIDs. That has been a huge problem. My next slide is about Move It, because we're having to use Move It. I know some of the districts do have access to our Move It folders, and if you want to email those districts, which are the larger ones, somebody emailed me. If you want to email me next year, we will get you set up, so you just put it in a folder and I pull it out. If you don't have access to that, we're still going to do through the packages. You have to send me an email and I send you the link, and it has a password, and then you have to reset it. You got 24 hours after I send you the link, so don't email me until you're ready to go. I try to send them within 2 hours of when I get them. The password has to be resent, and then your link is good for 28 days. So if you know you're going to be resending me things, remember your password. And then I'm on there's my contact information. The other thing is I am going to be out of town May 25th through June 1st. We are trying to set up somebody else to take over and Move It during that week. But just to keep that in mind, you're ready June, or if you're ready on the last day of May, wait, I'm back.
It'll go away.
Yeah, well, no, I get it, but except I can't send them the link.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, you can send me files during them, that's fine, but, or if you want, ask me for a link before I leave by May 24th. Pull your link down, remember your password, because then you can send anything while I'm gone. You guys have any questions?
This is like the not so fun part of the job, but it's so important if we're going to try and change the attitude on early childhood education in Utah. We have to have data that works. And right now, the first data they pulled on HQSRE was not good. It showed that kids in the program did worse than kids in the control group. And we know that's not the case. We know amazing things are happening in classrooms. These kids are just getting lost and they're not being able to be tracked. So please, please, please help us make this happen. So, yeah. Okay, so that's that. So now I'm going to turn the time over to Melissa, and she's going to go over some things about reimbursement. She has a little handout for you. So we're going to go over that one.
There's one here too.
Okay. Thank you. Will you bring up, yeah, right there. All right. Reimbursement requests.
So, this year was a learning experience, I think, for a lot of people. So that being said, I think that it's important that we kind of get some clear guidelines and clearer requirements going into next year. So for FY19, reimbursement requests are going to be required to be submitted on a quarterly basis at the very minimum. If you guys want to submit more frequently than that, on a monthly basis, it'll keep the reimbursement requests a little bit smaller. It'll be easier, I think, for everybody to compile and for us to review. So that's going to be an option. The reimbursement requests can't be processed until we do have enrollment data received. So since we're going to require the quarterly reimbursements, we'll need the enrollment information to us for Q1, so that will be due at the end of October. So then once we get that out of the way, then it should be hopefully smooth sailing throughout the rest of the year, because we'll already have that on file, and then you guys can be free to submit reimbursement when you're ready to. So for this current year, all of our reimbursement requests have to be to finance by July 9th to be processed for FY19. And because the UCA is going away and they are implementing a new system, everything is going to be shut down until September. So if we can get the reimbursements received and processed prior to the July 9 deadline, then you guys will get paid. And if not, then the payments won't be made until sometime in September. And that could potentially change because who knows what's going to happen when they try to implement that new system. So what I was thinking is that just to kind of ease that process and hopefully get everybody paid in a timely manner, if you could submit a reimbursement through the end of April. So I know most of you have submitted reimbursements at this point, but if you could submit another one, because we're working on those right now, we almost have those all reviewed and ready to go. So if you could submit another one that covers expenses through the end of April, no later than June 1, then that will just leave the 2 months that need to be covered for the remaining of FY18. It'll be 2 months. It should be hopefully quick to review and get processed so everybody can get paid before September. And then I just kind of added some tips on things that you guys could potentially do to get paid quicker. Provide a ledger along with your reimbursement request. I know that I've been creating those on my end and just kind of sending those to some of you guys just to review if I had questions on things. So I do have a template available if you want to kind of use what I've been using. And then if you can arrange your backup documentation based on the order that it appears either on that ledger that you create yourself, or if you provide some kind of general ledger expenditure summary, something that's generated by your accounting system. If you just kind of list things or provide things in the order that they're listed on that, it will really help with the review on our end. And then color code if necessary. I personally do that on a lot of things to try to tie things together to make them make sense. And then if you are submitting something that is allocated or say the dollar amount is going to be different than what you're actually requesting reimbursement for. So you have a receipt for $100, but you're only requesting $50 for the reimbursement that's being coded to this particular grant. Just indicate that somewhere. Write a note, show your work, why it's being split. Or I know most people have internal coding for this grant, so if you just make it easy for us to understand what's going on, then it will be really helpful and really appreciated. And I know that there has also been some confusion on backup documentation and what's acceptable. And so I kind of just wanted to go through a list of examples for each category. Hopefully that is helpful. But I think salaries and benefits is probably where some have struggled as far as knowing what to submit. Any kind of an internal general ledger expenditure report that shows the amounts for the months or the categories. Most of you have submitted those, it's been great. Any kind of a payroll report that can tie to those numbers just to show us where that was obtained is really helpful. And then we need to be able to tie this back to your budget. So if we just get a list of just numbers, we're not going to be able to know who's included in those numbers, if it ties to the budget, if you're spending the money according to what was actually in your approved budget. So that's just something that we need to have. And in addition to that, if you could provide a list of staffing, so most budgets say, one full-time educator, one para, that kind of thing. If you can provide a list of names to tie to those positions, that would be really helpful. And then everything else is pretty straightforward. Purchase, professional technical services, any kind of an internal report from your accounting system, a purchase order that shows that it's been processed and paid by your accounting office or finance office, and then a receipt or invoice that just basically explains what the money was spent on, what kind of PD it was, what kind of technical services it was for, and then a name of staff members, whoever was involved with that. And same thing kind of for travel too. Mileage reimbursements, most people have been submitting a spreadsheet that shows who traveled, the dates, the distance traveled. That's great, just to kind of show a breakdown of how you calculated the amount that you're requesting reimbursement for. Out-of-state travel, I've seen approved internal travel requests that have travel dates and details, why the travel took place, where you were going, what it was for. I haven't really had any issues with you guys submitting any of that kind of documentation. That's been great. And then supplies and materials. I've received some internal reimbursement requests that were processed for people who went out and bought things at random places. So if you have some kind of a report that states that somebody went to Walmart or Shopko or whatever, and you just submit the internal reimbursement request that was paid to that person, I still need the receipts to show actually an itemized list of what was purchased, just so we can keep tabs on that too. And then allocation method, show your work. If a purchase is being split amongst multiple funding sources, we just need to know how you divide those or you're tracking those and show how you calculated the number that you're going to request reimbursement for. And then the enrollment information that's submitted through Kristen, and that does vary, I think, based on where it's coming from. So if it's just a kind of a list of names, if you could color code or provide a table to state who is what, that would be really helpful too in helping us determine allocation and what we can actually, or how many TANF kids or what your expansion was for the year. And then there's just an example on that.
I need to add a sped line.
So otherwise they can't calculate a total.
Yeah.
So we'll add a special ed line.
Okay. That's just. So next year, no more UCA. It's exciting, right? Or do you guys like it as much as I do? So the new system, I think, is, I've heard it called multiple things, so I tried to verify this morning, but I think that they're referring to it as Utah Grants. So hopefully that's what they stick with. If everybody starts calling it one thing and then they change the name, it's just going to cause more confusion. So we haven't really gotten much information on the new system. Hopefully when we receive our training, we can kind of pass it on to you guys and help you be successful using that new platform. So we'll provide that to you as soon as it's available. But as far as I know, we're not going to have access until September. So at that point, hopefully we can create some guidelines or some workflows and provide those to you guys so you're not just, what's going on. And other things that we're kind of working on for next year, clear specific requirements. I think that will be helpful for everybody. I'm working on a budget reallocation request process and form that will hopefully help everybody if they need to reallocate funds and move things around. And then as well as a reimbursement checklist that we can get to you guys, and then you can kind of run through it just to make sure you have everything that we're looking for. So there's no things that come up last minute, like, oh, we need this person's timesheet or this receipt or whatever. And then after we create all these helpful tools, we're going to put them on our website and kind of revamp the HQSRE website so that can be a resource for you guys. So if you have any questions, you can go there and hopefully get a lot of your questions answered. And then we're open to suggestions because we're all learning. Yes. So, how do you guys feel about that? Does that look promising? Is it upsetting? It's a lot of information here.
I'm just gonna send this out to everybody that's on our list. If they want handouts, so, yeah.
Yeah, I've already emailed them all to them.
You did?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
They should have them. I did it last minute, sorry guys, but they did. Yeah, so, okay. The next thing we're gonna talk about is how we're calculating expansion seats and how we're thinking, like, justifying, I guess, your reimbursement based on the enrollment numbers you give us. So, again, we're all new. And as this program goes on, Jennifer keeps saying, we learn new things every year. So, I just want to say at the bottom of this little lovely sheet that I'm going to give you, it says, we understand that this calculation isn't perfect and each program has unique circumstances. Please never hesitate to communicate your program needs for funding, okay? So I feel like right now, and I hate it, that we're like the mean state people, and I don't want to have that. We are responsible for federal money, and it's a pain. It's difficult and it's tricky, and we're all trying to figure it out. But we absolutely 100% respect you guys and are so grateful that you're providing these services. This funding is meant to be used. We want to give you money. We want you to serve these children. We just have to follow all these federal rules and guidelines and make sure it fits within that framework. So this is like how I get my starting point of looking at your reimbursement and saying, is this justified based on their TANF number? If there's something specific to your program, which is why you couldn't do just how many classrooms this says, give me a call, give me an explanation, and I can talk with Jennifer, and if we can justify it, see where you're coming from, we'll reimburse more or whatever you expend, okay? So don't ever feel like, And I feel like, especially when we're in this crazy time and we're sending lots of emails, like the warm, friendly manner doesn't come across. So I just want you to know that like deep down, that's what it is. Like we are wanting to give you this funding. And if you feel like that's not the way it is, please like communicate with us. We are here. We're here to be your buddies. Okay. We want you to succeed. We want you to have this money. So with that said, I'm going to show you how we're doing this. You kind of have an idea. Because this is a confusing for some people. Okay. Can I have
Do you
one?
need
Okay. Alrighty. Everyone have one? Almost. So I just did 2 examples of how we did this. So we take your total baseline from when you guys first entered the program. That again is all your students sped, all of that. Okay, so for example 1, that number is 63. Then when we're doing your reimbursement, we look at that enrollment information that you've sent us then, and we get your total enrollment for that count. That's currently 141 students. So then I find the difference. So you've had a growth of 78 students. Okay, that's just that's a number that I just keep for a second just to look at. So then I look at your enrollment sheet and I see how many TANF students you have enrolled, and you have 44. Okay, so then I look back at that 78, and that 78 shows 44 students, at least 44 students. So that 44 is justified. Okay, that's the only reason I really have that difference or growth number. So if that number was ever less than what your TANF enrollment would be, then I would go by the growth number, not your TANF number. Does that make sense? So if the difference had shown 42, I'd be reimbursing over 42 kids, not 44. Does that make sense? Okay, so then the growth demonstrates TANF enrollment. So then I have to know what your classroom model is in order to know how much to reimburse, how much staff to reimburse, and all of that. So I take 44 and I divide it by 36. And the reason I have 36 is because this program is 4 days a week with a half-day sessions. So I say, okay, they can have about 18 in the morning, about 18 in the afternoon. That's 36 total. So how many teachers is that? So this comes out to 1.2. So I'm going to say you can fund staff and materials for 1.5 classrooms. Okay. Now, a lot of people are really confused about this because they always say, well, we couldn't put all the TANF kids in the same classroom, and I understand that. So what happened is in the beginning, to my understanding, is they tried to do that. So you would give a percentage for each class. We have 2 kids in this class, and that's this percentage of that class, and the 3 kids in this class, that's this percent. That just got messy. Okay, and so this, and eventually, I mean, that comes out to about what this will be anyway. So I understand they're not there all in the same class, but you're supposed to be using other funding, obviously, for those other students. And so if we fund the amount of classrooms that this comes out to, we're getting close. Again, it's not perfect, okay? And if I come back to you guys, and again, I'm busy, and I'm just like saying like, I'm seeing that you can fund 1.5 classrooms, blah, blah, and I don't like leave it open for interpretation, by all means, respond back and be like, excuse you, Jessica, you don't realize that this is how we run, and this is why I had opened more than that. Okay, if you're justified, don't go crazy, like obviously, but if you're justified, we will work with you. We want you to have the funding, okay? So I did a second example, same thing. So the total baseline was 434. Their current enrollment is 496, okay? So I find that difference or growth, which is 62. Their current TANF enrollment is 40. So those 40 expansion seats are justified. I can reimburse on that 40. Again, if the difference or growth was less than 40, I reimburse on that growth number. So this class model is 4 days a week, full day session, 1 teacher and 1 aide. And so I do 40 divided by 18 because it's 1 class of 18 students, which would be 2.2 classrooms. So I would fund 2.5 classrooms, okay? So we're being nice, we'll give you the 0.5, okay? So then as you guys in the future submit reimbursement, I'm gonna have a document. I sent out that survey that a lot of you have done. I need to have sent out a reminder to have the rest of you do it. But if you can just like maybe on the bottom of that table on that enrollment, say what your classroom model is. If it's half day, if it's how many staff are in that classroom. So then when I go to look at salaries, I say, okay, they're funded for 1.5 classrooms, so I can fund 3 full staff, like 3 paras, if that's what the classroom has, and like 1 other para's salary for that half classroom. So I have to have your model there to justify as many salaries as the classroom equals. Does that make sense? Okay. So I hope this kind of helps so you kind of know where we're coming from. Again, that big paragraph at the bottom. I understand that this is not gonna fit everything, okay? So if I come back at you and we say, this isn't working for us, you have to explain why that wasn't gonna work, or why you have to do more, okay? Alrighty. Oh, so something that we've seen as kind of a concern is I don't know if you guys have understood the difference between like when you get grant awarded. So for this FY19, when you get your grant money, that is an estimated amount. That's not a, here's a gift card, go crazy, which I think a lot of you understand, but I think some people get confused. That is an estimated award depending on your estimated enrollment. But come reimbursement time, it's gonna be your actual budget will be dependent on your actual enrollment. If you haven't enrolled because you said you were gonna enroll, then you're not gonna get all that money, okay? So we've had some people that are like, had the mindset of like, we're getting close to the end of the year, they haven't spent all this money, they're gonna spend it. You have to have, it's not just a, we wish we could give you that money, go and make your classrooms amazing, even more than they already are. But that's not the case. So as you go throughout the year, be cognizant, that works. I wasn't going for that word, but that totally works. Go for, like, just be attentive to how much you're spending. And if you're kind of like, ooh, you can kind of do this for your own classroom, okay, based off your own program, based on your TANF number, okay? And if you want to send it to me and say, like, am I doing this right? Because this gets messy too, even. Like, the day with Tammy, I was like, okay, and we had a whiteboard out, and we were like drawing pictures, like a little teacher with classes underneath it, like, it gets messy. So please, please, please let us know. But just, I would be mindful of that as you spend money, that it's equal to that TANF number of students. So that you don't get to reimbursement time and you've spent too much and we're not going to reimburse. Okay, so again, same paragraph, like we have not been program directors. I have not been in your shoes. I don't know what it is to be a program director and how they work. So you have to teach me and help me understand why that was necessary.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
My concern is this. We build these classrooms. We don't have a magic ball. We don't know who's going to come.
Mhm.
We're prepared for them when they come, and we enroll all year long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have heartburn over this because what you're telling me now, there is the possibility when we have staff in place, we can't have qualified staff and then just say, oh, kids didn't come and let them go.
No.
Oh, now they're here, come back. That doesn't work.
No, so yeah, you can have your classroom staff the way it is. I understand that not all the kids show up. All your classes are not going to be at 18. Okay, so
So I'm just curious, because I get in trouble for this. I get heat from our accounting department.
I know you all
Stay
do.
away from.
I know you all do.
But where are we, where are we supposed to pull this money from and pay for what
Yeah,
you
so
guys said you would, but
We end up
now.
meeting it.
So this is the thing, is that, and this is HQSRE to a T. It is based on circumstance. If you're running into that problem, talk to us. We will work with you. If we can't reimburse a classroom, we'll reimburse some professional development. Like we will find other things to fund so that other money becomes available to whatever we can't reimburse. Okay? Like if we have to come to you and you're showing us like what you've spent all year long, like we will work with you. We will figure it out. So don't be stressed about, like, I know it's been stressful, so I can't just say, don't be stressed. But like, we're here with you. So,
I think the stressful thing is for me in a big program is that the rules change all the time.
Yes.
And so it's pretty hard to run a program and do this when the ball is changing all the time.
yes.
And so, so this year, we haven't submitted anything because we're just gonna do it all in salaries. And I'm gonna have to call you about that. That's what we did last year too, because it just is too complicated. So our district said to follow every little nickel and dime and that you spend for every little thing is a joke. So last year we just did salaries. That's what we're gonna try to do this year, but we built our budget differently in case we had to open more classrooms. Now we know next year we are gonna open more, but it's just been a revolving thing because you never know. And Melissa knows certainly my frustration. Last year I was going to, go postal on people by the end of the year. But that's what's been the frustrating thing is that the rules change all the time.
And
But I will say, to their defense, it's not necessarily their fault that the rules are changing, but, and I agree with Jessica that they do work with you, and they did that last year with us. So it was very helpful, and we, received all the money that we requested for and everything.
Just keep talking to us, because like I said before, like, we want you guys to serve these kids. We don't get to keep the money if you don't spend it, like, we want you to have the money.
Well, and like you were saying, you have a number in mind that you think that you're gonna be able to recruit, you don't know what's gonna happen. So I know that a part of this program is being ready and able to serve in case they do show up. So at the end of the year, we can't just be like, oh, sorry, you didn't have those kids and you had that classroom and you have to lay those people off and, that would be terrible. So as long as what your actual number is coming in at is reasonable, or the money that you have spent, even if you don't have the actual enrollment to support it, as long as it's reasonable, that's fine. If you estimate that you're gonna have 1,200 kids and you get 5, that's when we have a problem. I mean, when it's just a gross, just overestimation, as long as it's reasonable, and I mean, we know that you can't just be like, okay, we opened a new classroom, we only have 2 kids in it, like, we can't just scrap that, I mean, I know that there's things that can happen internally, but it's just as long as things are reasonable, then I don't think that there's gonna be a problem.
So again, just help us understand where you're coming from, and we'll be happy to work with you. Unfortunately, it's TANF funds, and those are not fun to work with. So I know a lot of your accounting people and people have been like, this grant requires so much more. It's because they're probably used to grants with state funds, and they are not near as restrictive as this one is. So help them.
Our district hates it, and they want us not to do it. And, and that, I mean, that's been the frustrating thing for us. I mean, the curriculum director says we're doing this, but everybody else under her have said, this is ridiculous. We don't need this money. I can just give you this money. But that's, we want to, the money's been great.
Yeah, the money is fantastic. And I mean, the bigger picture is like, this is hopefully opening the door for statewide preschool. Hopefully. Might be years, but like that.
In years.
Yes, we are. And I mean, it's just a pain in the butt, but we are going to get there. So, yeah, I hope you guys felt that we're here for you, and I really don't want to be the bad people at the state. Like, feel free to call us. We're your friends. I just left the classroom. I love it to pieces and I miss it, but like, I know it and I love it, and I want to help you guys succeed with these kiddos. Okay, so with that, that's pretty much the end, but I made you guys a little anti-stress kit because this has been a lot of stress, and I know you have plenty of other stress. So, you want to pass them out while I tell them what's in it real fast? Right here. So in it, you have a slinky, which is a really good like fidget, or if you're really mad, you can probably throw it at the wall and things won't happen. Bad things won't happen. There's some bubble wrap in there, so you can pop the stress out of your life. There's one crayon to remind you to color, because studies have shown that coloring reduces stress in adults. So go to Google, get a coloring page, go down to your supply closet, get a box of crayons, and color for 15 minutes. You feel so much better. Then I put a little PEX card in there because I know a lot of you are special ed. If you need a break, you can utilize it. And like, sometimes you are lost for words and you just need to use the PEX card. And then I gave you a little chocolate, because chocolate always helps. So there you go. So we really love you guys, and I'm so sorry it's a pain, but we'll be better. I'm not planning on going anywhere, so we shouldn't change heads again. And we'll just continue to learn and be better. And again, everything is circumstantial, so if you guys bring me a new situation we haven't dealt with, then that might be a change that we make. We're just trying to understand this grant better, and hopefully as Jennifer rewrites it, that it'll be improved that way. So don't give up on us yet, stay with us. Go preschool. Yeah, Robin?
So I think it would help me when I try to get everything ready for reimbursement and have all the receipts and so forth. And I have everything ready in the order it's supposed to be, and I take it to our accountant. Then I'm in limbo, not knowing when she's going to get it off to you. And it was a major problem last year, and it's a major problem right now, because I'm not And I keep sending emails every day. How's it coming? Did you submit? Where are we? How can you, I guess, should I send you copies of all the receipts?
That's what I'm
Should I
thinking.
send?
Is it a problem for
Because-
her to send documentation?
I have it ready to go, but I don't
But it
know
gets lost
if
in
you're ever gonna
translation.
get it.
So what I would do, so we are totally, so Melissa's mentioned this, like a lot of times, like if you have one reimbursement hanging out in UCA and you can't submit another reimbursement, like you can go ahead and send her all of your documentation for the second reimbursement and we can start working on that and verifying all of that. So by the time it does come through UCA, we're just ready to go and push it through. So there's nothing keeping you from doing that. So in that case, what I would suggest is you send us documentation if that makes you feel better, and then we can start working on it, which is good. And then I would maybe if you email your accountant and say like, hey, even though she already knows or whatever, you say, hi, I dropped this off. It's in your bucket now. Like you take care of it, and you CC one of us on it, so she knows that we're aware that it's in her hands, the ball's in her court. Then we know like who to. Then like if a month or a week goes by or two, we're like, hey, we got that email that you were having this. Like, where are you in the process? When can we expect it? So then we can kind of be aware that she has it and kind of help it.
I think it's also important for you to know that I have been told not to do that, not to send you anything
Yeah,
Until-
BCCS.
it goes to them. So it's like, I can't win in this situation.
Well, I would maybe ask them, like, what is the problem with sending the documentation? Like, what is their reasoning? Because if there is a significant problem and we shouldn't be doing that, then we should know that, but I don't anticipate that being the case.
Maybe they just want to look at it first.
No, because things get changed. That's what I've been told. Things get changed. We're not gonna do it that way. We're gonna do it this other way.
You do what you need to do what works for you. If you feel like if the current system's
Send
not
them a
working,
copy first and then do your thing with
There you go. Then send it.
And I guess I can, I'm 63 years old. I guess I can get in trouble and I'm not gonna worry about it.
Yep. Retire with us.
Okay, because
It will be a celebration.
Well, if there's something that the accounting office does, do they add to it or?
I don't think they can add anything. They shouldn't be adding anything.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were adding like any kind of reports that they generated or
No,
something to go
I
along
really
with it.
I don't know what it is. I just know that, there's a lot of tension. It's caused some problems and errors have happened that shouldn't have happened.
Okay.
So our goal is to make sure we don't have any errors happening. And we do our own checklist to make sure it doesn't, but because we're not, like I'm not, or my financial secretary isn't entering the information, then after the fact, when I see what got submitted and I'm going, this is wrong, and then it's trying to fix something that's wrong is really hard.
yeah, so I obviously would strive, I'm sure you have, but strive to have an internal conversation. And like another thing maybe you want to do is like write an email to us, include the accountant and say, I'm thinking of doing it this way to save like some time and to make things easier. Like, does anyone have any objections to this? And then if they do have objections, then we're in that conversation. I don't know. Yeah, or we can drive over to Salt Lake and go visit them. We can do that. We can bring them an anti-stress kit. We'll be good to go.
But Melissa, that happened with us. And we've got a teeny tiny district, and the guy just kept ignoring us.
Yeah.
I went over and sat with them.
That was one of my things I was wondering about. Because I know I talked to a lot of you guys, but then I don't really hear from the VAs. I don't know what kind of communication takes place or lack of communication that takes place. So,
There's plenty of trying,
yeah.
and there's plenty, we're contacting him. The word I got was, it's a really busy time of year, so I may or may not get that.
I did try to go out next year and then.
Idiot.
Oh,
No, no. Yeah, Melissa came out.
Yeah,
Finally did it.
Smile.
Pull out that break card. So yeah, just keep letting us know. I guess
Oh, thank you.
we're happy to come down and go visit with them, show them our shiny faces, give them some chocolate.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let us know what you do.
If I can also add, at my home.
Hi. Oh, I think too, like, it's hard when they're, I mean, I think with any person, when you're communicating via email, it's easier to be grumpy and to not be so nice. So once they've met the person face to face, like, you know me now, we've talked. I know where you work, I know where your desk is. I will march down there. And
Or if you are having internal struggles like Robin was explaining and you would appreciate us maybe coming and paying a visit just to kind of see what, if we can get information on what the process is like for the documentation to be compiled or just anything, you think that it would be beneficial for us to come visit, let us know and we
will do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I was gonna add, we are in the office right now, are working on providing some kind of professional development for you in the summer. As of right now, we're planning to do it at a north and a south location. So the northern location is scheduled to be August 17th in the Senate building, in the auditorium. So our idea is to bring all of you together so that you can collaborate and network. We want to share and spotlight your strengths so that if other people are struggling in that area, they can reach out to you. And we also plan to give you some professional development in ECHRS. We looked at the KEEP data, and in places where the KEEP data was low, we want to give you some professional development there. We want to talk about culture and diversity because we're finding that that's a weakness across the state, particularly with regard to gender stereotypes.
So August 17th is like the beginning of
It's
the
our first
school year. I mean, we're not gonna get people there.
Okay.
There's no way.
What would be good for you? Would you prefer it in July? Would you like it at the beginning of August? Would you like it to be, we were trying not to do it at the end of the year, so we want it to be fresh in your mind or in your teachers' minds when we come back. What would be good for you?
One of the things that we found is that once you get up and running,
Yep.
then, and you've got all of your interior, your internal processes running, then to look outward really helps. So, we find a little bit like for the end of September, but not during the first.
I do know that I start enthusiasm again.
Okay, it's gonna be great. So would it be better to do one like on a Friday in September? Friday in September. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Okay, we're kind of scheduling that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's sooner than later because we've already put our days off,
Yeah.
our days for professional development.
All our PD days are all.
Already scheduled.
All on Friday. Fridays are a hard day.
So if I get that to,
Any day's hard, so.
it would be,
For our staff.
you can bring your staff, you can bring your coaches, you can come, we're even providing private providers to come. It's whoever you want to bring, and I will get this date to you by the end of the week, I'll get it switched. So by tomorrow, I'll have a date for you.
Where's the southern location?
The southern location has not been scheduled yet, but I'm looking at Dixie Middle School in their library, because they have a great, huge open area for that.
And how many people are we supposed to send to this?
It's up to you. If you want to send all your teachers, if you want to send all your coaches, whoever you would like to come, everybody will benefit from this. We plan to have something for everybody. We're going to be having people from the Teach program come and talk about CDA scholarships. We want to talk about RP2. Well, we have people there because we're hoping to onboard more people for that. Because it's not too late, right, Melissa?
RP2?
Yeah.
We have room for one more person, but,
Well, but a lot of the people that are already involved in HQSRE and HQSR are already on RP2. So we want to collaborate and kind of combine and, kill all kinds of birds with one stone. So, okay. Hopefully.
And we'll send out, we'll send out like a Google form with some of the
Yeah, to
topics,
register.
so you guys can help us, well, not to register, to pick the topics that you feel like are most important, so we know what to spend our funds on. So when we send that, and you can send that out to like all your teachers if you want, or if you just want to do it as a program director, let us know. You can just do it. Yeah, so we're done. I have more of the lovely little kits if you want to take some to other people that have been helping you with this grant. So feel free to take those. And yeah, we'll We'll be in contact. Thanks so much for all you do.
Thank
You're
you,
awesome.
thank you.